Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us wherever you are. If you're joining us on the television airwaves here in the Santa Barbara, California area, we welcome you at TVSB, which is where we're sitting today. We're inside the TVSB studios. So grateful to be here. Grateful for JP and Ellie, the whole crew here, the whole team. So grateful. And then many of you join us on all these other platforms. There's lots of ways to do it these days, and including the podcast, which you can search any podcast platform at Good Life Conversations. You can find them all. They drop interviews there every week. The YouTube channel, you can subscribe, and on the list goes. GoodLifeTelevision.org is our website. You can check that out, and we're at X. We try to be most places, so you can find us, and you can find all the long form interviews, and then also we break them up into what we call power clips, where some of the great moments from some of these amazing people that we've had over these last few years. We're so grateful for that, and we're here to inspire, to encourage, to honor, to lift up. It's easy to tear down. It's hard to build, and we try to honor the builders and the creators and the inventors and the encouragers. And so there's so much good in life. There's so many noble people, and so that's what we're here for. And we're so grateful that you're with us. It's been such a fun journey together, and so thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to have a wonderful woman with us here today as my guest. Bri Sché Fair is with me.
Yes.
Welcome.
Are you? How are you?
I'm great. I was so blessed. Bri Sché is an actress, and I was reading about that last night. Some of the work you've done. So she's been an actress. She's focusing a lot of her efforts right now on, in addition to being a mother of a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, on professional development, on personal development, life coaching, which I think is just such an amazing opportunity. And the more I've gotten to know Bri Sché, I've just been. We had a meeting in our office a couple months ago, and it was just, I left just really inspired, encouraged by what you're putting your efforts towards. There's a lot of things you could do. And I mean, that's true for everybody, but there's a lot of choices, but a talented person, there's a lot of ways you can go, and it could be kind of all about you, or which I think unfortunately we see sometimes, but you're really focusing on other people. You're focusing on how can I help other people be the best version of themselves. So I just want to start the show by saying thanks for doing that, because I think it's fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I want to get to that, but I want to go back to where it started for you. Your story. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little of your story. I know there were some challenges, there was some difficulty in your story, because I think that informs what you're doing now and how you're trying to help other people who may be in that same spot, right, or have suffering in their background. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Definitely. So it does inform my present day. I was born in Washington, D.C., and then I moved various other states, Georgia, South Carolina, and then Virginia. So people would always ask me, oh, are your parents in the military? Like, what does your mom do? Why are you moving all over? And I would tell them, oh, I don't know. Like, that's just how my mom decides to live, and I'm going along for the journey. Mm-hmm. So I moved to Georgia, and then we moved to South Carolina to live with my dad. My mom gave birth to my little brother, and he was just such a beautiful light to me. I felt like a little mini mom to him. So we had a great bond. And a year later, we moved to Virginia, and he passed away at 2 years old. And I found him. He fell out of his bedroom window, and it was a traumatic experience for our family at the time. And I think that's what really started my journey of like, what is life? What is this? And I just was always a really deep child, like always had a book with me, always trying to figure out the meaning of life. So that's where it all began for me, just asking questions, very deep questions. Right. So
you've been a deep thinker.
Yes, all my life.
Which is wonderful, and can be challenging if you're in that space, right? I mean, if you kind of
It
thinking
can
everything
be challenging. Yes, it can be. And my mom would tell me all the time, "You're so in your head. I just want you to be here in the present moment." I'm like, what does she mean by that? What does she mean by that? And then now as I'm an adult, I realize like there's times where you have to learn how to use your superpowers, and then times where you need to just cut it off and be present in the moment and experience and be youthful too. So it's all about balance for me.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a really, how old were you when your brother passed away?
I was 11.
Oh wow! So you really do remember that. I mean, that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
so that happens. Tell us, kind of take us through kind of your teen years a little bit, and kind of how you got to California and all that.
Oh, okay. So my teen years, I found comfort actually in acting. My mom mentioned it to me. Hey, do you want to go to this theater school? And I said, okay. I don't know much about it at all prior to that, but I was open to it, and I fell in love with it, and I felt that it was therapeutic for me. Like it was a way for me to really express and get all of my emotions out, and I would feel so deeply every single role, especially if it has some kind of trauma in it.
Right.
So I had an awareness to like, oh, this is why you feel so much, is because I didn't have therapy at the time. So it was a way for me to get all of that out. And I also loved it because I found that it was something that you didn't have to start perfect at. You could improve and you can grow in. And one of my acting coaches would say to us all the time, hard work beats talent. And that was, I just loved that quote at the time, because for me, I didn't feel like I was the most talented. I didn't feel like I had the experience as everyone else. But I'm like, oh, this is something I can grow in. So anything that I can grow in, I love that for myself.
Yeah. And so you started acting before you came to California.
Yes, yes. So at 14,
Wow.
when I started my freshman year, and that school was so mind, body, soul, like put your all into it, and we're gonna develop every part of you. And I would be crying because it was so intensive. Our hours were from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. So
Wow.
longer than the average high schooler.
Yeah.
So it was a lot on my body and on my mind and on my soul, but I loved it. Like I put my all into it. And 2 years later, I moved out to California, and I auditioned for another school out here. I got in. She was blown away. At that point, I had improved, so it was a testament to, oh, hard work does beat talent. You put your head down, you learn the material, the technique. This is something you can grow with. So got in and immediately did monologue competitions, and thousands of kids throughout California were in those, and I got 3rd place.
Oh my gosh.
So it was an amazing experience, and then all of it was just very much therapeutic for me. As I said, it was just a way for me to become this entirely different person. People would be so shocked, like, that was you up there? You're such a small thing, and your voice changed and everything. I'm like, yes, I love it.
Wow. Wow. And you've done some movies.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was really great. It was different than theater, because theater is so much, like I said, mind, body, soul. And then when you're doing film, you gotta tone it down a little bit. You have a different approach, but it's still all about being present and being locked into whatever your goal is. So it's so many parallels with that, and I think real life.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned, therapy, and like I've been thinking about counseling, just, and therapy in general. Like, and I don't know what your experience has been with this, but I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, when I was growing up, if you were in counseling or you were in therapy, like something was wrong with you.
Yes.
Right. I'm kind of at the point now where I think if you're not in therapy, something's wrong with you.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it should be so normalized. Like
Yes.
everybody should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think counseling. I mean, it is not mutually exclusive to my faith at all. Like it's totally. I think it's just amazing how important it is. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. It's so important, and it's sad that it has been demonized in a way,
Right.
and especially I know like in the Black community, if you're very religious as well,
You shouldn't be in counseling.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it would be something that people would not offer or suggest. So
Right. Yeah. Right.
yeah, so when I say I didn't have therapy, it's just, the knowledge around this is so useful. It doesn't mean that there's anything crazy or anything wrong with you. It's a self-improvement tool.
Exactly. Right,
And I love that we're coming into an era of like self-care and self-improvement, and people are being more mindful of this.
Yeah.
It's beautiful that we're shifting in that direction.
I totally agree. Yeah. A lot of life experiences you've had. You're doing the acting and theater. When did you decide, I really want to think about this personal development in terms of what I'm doing, like with my time? When did that happen?
Well, I guess my journey with that started when I got pregnant with my son at 25. I just automatically knew I fell into this cycle of this upward spiral of self-improvement within that. So the whole time I'm taking childbirth classes, prenatal yoga, reading every single book I could get my hands on. So just being me, but taking it to the next level, like understanding that there's nothing, I know that I can't prepare myself in a perfect way, but I'm going to do my best to just accelerate like the amount of knowledge that I have and
So
just
you're reading about anything?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, child brain development. Being very mindful of like my nutrition at the time, and yeah, so that started me along the course. And I started reading some books specifically about mindset regarding childbirth, labor, and pregnancy, and that really opened my eyes to like, oh, a lot of our fear-based thinking is based on stories and narratives that we pick up from other people. So for instance, at that time, I became aware of just a lot of women coming up to me with their traumatic childbirth stories. And I'm like, okay, some of the books I was reading would tell me like, when that happens, you don't have to be rude about it, but you can just consciously reject and still hold firm to what it is that you want to experience. So it was this really mature way of looking at things for me and deciding firmly, this is what I want my experience to be. And that translates to every area of your life. You don't have to be programmed by what other people believe if it doesn't make you feel good or if it doesn't serve, your highest purpose for your life. So
that's so wise. We have to be careful what we let in. And they're screaming at us. The culture's screaming at us from every side.
Yes.
Especially on social media.
Exactly.
The messaging. I mean, can you imagine? Like, none of this existed when I was growing up. Like,
I know.
I went out to the driveway to get the LA Times newspaper and bring it inside so I could find out if the Dodgers won, because I had to go to bed.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, I don't remember. I mean, I'm, playing football in the street in the afternoon. Like nowadays, the messaging, the incoming,
is so much.
If we're not thinking like what you just described, what am I taking in? Is this true? Is this? I mean, that's such a great point.
Yes.
So you learned that.
Yes. Yeah. That's when I learned that skill. Like, watch everything. Be observant, not only of others but of your own thoughts, because you have to start watching them first if you want to change them. And you have to stop identifying so strongly with them if you want to change them. So that's a whole different perspective than I had thought about it for 25 years. So you have to undo a lot of that, unlearn. And I took myself throughout that process. I remember something I would do was I would record like positive affirmations that I knew I would want to play during my labor, but I would listen to it when I would do my daily 1-mile walk. So I knew it was going to be like a physical preparation involved with it, but more so mental. So I remember one day I couldn't get up the hill and I had a thought like, girl, like just call somebody to come get you. You don't have to do this, you're pregnant. But I stopped and I watched it and I'm like, okay, I can choose to put more into that thought, or I can decide I can take in the thought of what I'm hearing in my affirmation, like you can do anything, you can trust your body right now. So I said, well, this is what I'm gonna have to rely on is my thoughts and my thought patterns when I go through this labor. Let me start doing it now. So suddenly I continued to walk and I took that in. And then over time, for instance, even those walks got shorter, went from 45 minutes to 30 minutes. And I just felt so proud of myself and accomplished, but it all started with my mindset.
Yeah. So good. What we dwell on, what we think is important. And I think sometimes we have to stop and go, what do I actually think? You know? And it's not like this is going to sound weird, but I have a friend who looks in the mirror every morning and says, I love you 10 times. And the first time I heard that, I'm like, that's weird, you know?
Yeah.
And he doesn't do it like in a self-love kind of way, like he's, you know, he loves himself. God made him.
Yes.
And he loves himself today, even before he figures out all of his kinks and wrinkles. And I thought, man, so, you know, I've done it a couple times, but it's a little weird. But I think it's so important. Like, what do I actually think? You know, if I'm listening to the messages of the culture, there's going to be 74 ways that I'm not meeting the mark, or everybody's highlight reel, you know, on social media. If I'm comparing, you know, there's all the comparison stuff, you know. But we have to be really careful about thinking and where, in terms of my spirit, my connection, you know, I'm a faith person, but, you know, what does God think about me?
Yes.
You know, and I need to be real clear about what I'm clear about, you know? Does that make sense?
Yes,
it's really important. And I think, I mean, and so I know this is part of your messaging, but is that one of the things you're trying to help people, young people with?
Yes. Just with that awareness, like you said, that stop and what am I thinking right now? What am I taking in? What do I even want? What does God think about me? Where is my worthiness? And what am I attaching myself to? It's too much moving on autopilot.
Yes,
so
exactly.
With that autopilot, you don't stop and assess these things.
Yes, I think that's exactly.
So
that's a great
just starting there would change so much. That's not even the reprogramming, and that's just the first step.
Just if
you can just pause and watch everything that's incoming and everything that's on autopilot, it can just make such a difference.
That is so good. Do you encourage people to take a pause, take a time out from devices and media? I mean, is that part of what you would encourage?
Yes, definitely. Yes, and then even studying how the mind works and the subconscious mind and the conscious mind works. These social media companies are very savvy and they understand how our mind works. So you should also understand how powerful your mind is as well. So when I was going through this process, I would be speaking to the younger generation, just very mindful of like, how long am I scrolling? What is even my aim in scrolling? Because in comparison, like you said, years ago, you didn't have too much incoming media impressions. So when you are trying to be very aware of what your goal is and what your aim is, and even if you've had experience in the past that could have influenced you and you want to step away from that, you have to go through a shifting period of being like, anything that can influence me, I need to be a little bit mindful of right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and what then? Music also. What you
music
listen
as
to?
well. Yes.
Yeah.
It's best just to, I say, people like to say 21 days to form a habit. If you can even do 21 days of just cutting off the noise and tuning within, because a lot of people right now are looking for external validation and don't have a connection with God or just their inner voice or whatever that may be. We're kind of losing that.
You think?
Yeah, we are. I'm being like gentle. We're definitely losing that.
Yeah.
So it is something that I want the younger generation to be more mindful of. Yeah.
This is important. We don't know the fruit of this kind of technology yet. We don't know. We don't know yet, right? I mean, because it's like we just started. Like we're going to find out in 20 years what this did. You know, we know what certain behaviors do. You know, images. Let's just say, I don't want to, you know, without saying it out loud. I mean, what men can get sucked into.
Oh, yes.
What that does. I mean, we know some of the data.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the social media
it.
craze, like this TikTok thing or the whole, we don't really know, you know. And so I think people like you that are thinking about this are like, man, we really need to tell.
Yes.
It's like a warning almost.
Yes. Can we take back some of the control, right?
Yeah.
Because if not, you're being controlled.
That's right.
By someone else.
And programmed in a sense.
Definitely 100% programmed, if not. And
isn't that amazing?
We're all powerful. Like,
right.
We're all made in God's image. So you don't know others' intentions with the development of what they're putting out. So that's something I'm very mindful of.
I think that's exactly right. They don't have your best interest at heart necessarily, to put it politely.
Yeah.
The programmers.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, they're not thinking about the highest and best version of Dean.
I know, and it's something we have to individually be responsible for and decide that, like, I have worth, I have value, my story matters. So we're losing that connection to our worthiness and, as you said, how God sees us. So this is something, that I'm definitely passionate about.
Talk a little bit about your faith.
So my faith in God, I would say, definitely has some patches of questioning. Are you there for me? What's going on? But I've come to a place where I just feel such a deep sense of support. Like, you are cared for, you are loved, you are valuable, and I know that everything that I've gone through is to serve His purpose and a bigger purpose. And I know it takes some time for some people to really feel that and know that for themselves. But I think just the more you even with God, like, lean into the Word. I went through a phase with that, just on my knees in my Bible daily throughout college, just because I wanted to make sure I was having something, as we said, outside of everyone else that you talk to, what's going on, social media, whatever, that you can actually know is firm.
That's right.
Yeah.
A firm foundation.
Yeah. Right. Something that you know is never changing.
Right.
And I really understand and get people that are like, but I don't feel it. I went through all these things and I still don't feel it. And it's like, you have breath in your body. So that's enough of an answer. And that's it. I don't go further than that.
Yeah, so good. Yeah. I have written on my binder list right now on the left column, it says Rock of Ages. You know, you talk about something that never changes, like the firm foundation. That's what everyone's looking for too. You know, what's real here, and especially in this younger. Give me something authentic. And God, I mean, in my experience, in my opinion, is the one thing. It's not shifting sand. Like everything else is gonna fade away.
Yes.
Storm comes and it's like, forget about it, you know.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, I've had experiences where it's like, I'm going to be friends with this guy for the rest of my life. Like I've had that a couple times where it's like and then something happens and I'm like, what happened? It evaporated like the wind, like it was like gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm glad that's not my God, because even friendship can be, is not a God, can't be a God. It's a lousy God, you know. But that firm foundation, I mean, I think that's really important. So you're in college on your knees reading, looking at the scripture, looking for truth.
Yes, I was.
That is rare.
I'm happy to have had that time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was, I was out there by myself, and I just always had this thing in the back of my mind of like, it's just you in the world by yourself. And it started off as a feeling of loneliness, like kind of grew up as an only child. You had my brother, and then he passed. I have sisters who are 20 years younger than me now, but I grew up kind of on my own. And I think when you start off with that feeling of loneliness, you do look for something. And I think the interesting thing is that everybody is kind of looking for the same thing. They're looking for that validation, like to know that they matter, and they're looking for love. And instead of, like, we can go so many different routes with that.
Right.
So I decided to kind of stand on the foundation, I would say, that my mom gave me with God and church. And I just felt such relief when I would do that daily, every morning, reading my Bible and having just clarification for myself of who I was and not needing it from outside sources.
Oh my goodness. What a beautiful thing. Your mom gave you a gift with that.
She did.
She's an amazing person too, by the way.
She did.
I'm a huge fan of your mom.
Yes.
Special lady. So what's the dream? I mean, let me, before I get to that, we only have a couple minutes, but having kids, how has that changed you?
Oh, so along with the conversation around programming and understanding how the mind works, and how between ages 0 to 7, we're extremely susceptible to programming and external influences. There's a quote that says, "Show me a 7-year-old boy and I'll show you a man." And that stuck with me when I had my son. So I just wanted to be extremely mindful of, what am I impressing his nervous system with? Like, is it stress and I'm not perfect with that, but is it stress, or am I giving him memories that consciously he won't remember, but it will leave a sense of that validation, because that's where it starts. So a lot of people that have it and they're successful or in their own right, whatever that looks like for them, just not looking for things outside of themselves, a lot of the times it stems from that age, like 0 to 7. So I really
So you've been focused with these young.
Yes. So my son just started school at 4, at 3 actually. And prior to that, I really just knew that, I want to make sure I'm the one that's his primary influence from 0 to 3 at least. And it's interesting because in some countries, maternity leave is until 7, which I found that to be coincidental. The fact that the subconscious mind is your children are in a lower brainwave, meaning they're very impressionable basically until that age, and how in other countries maternity leave is until your child is 7 years old. Wow. So really, I feel like we all should be extremely just present as much as we can, and I know it's so much going on and it's set up that way for us to not be able to leave the best impression. Right. And it's a daily, like, it's something you have to be intentional about daily. Yeah. But my mom gave me a good foundation, and I'm just leveling up from there.
I love it. In a few seconds, like, what's the dream for you? I mean, you have obviously your own kids and family, but you really want to help people
Yes.
walk in this truth and have peace and have joy and be the best.
Yes,
talk about
that is my dream, like working with my clients as a mindset success coach. My goal with them is always to, like, what is your dream for yourself? Okay, what does that look like? What kind of emotions would you be feeling? What kind of thoughts are you thinking as this person? Because a lot of times we don't sit down and feel into that and ask ourselves, what does that look like? A lot of the times we're so influenced by past traumatic experiences that we don't even give ourselves the chance to discover a potential future. Something different. Yeah. And your nervous system will thank you for that.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself the gift of feeling good is something that I tell myself, like, for no reason, because you're worthy of that.
Right. So good. Hope, really. I mean, the future, it's
Yes.
about hope when
Yes.
you think about it.
Exactly.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the program. So thank you.
Thank
I'm
you. I enjoyed
inspired.
our conversation.
Yeah. And people can find you anywhere. I don't know if you're out there on the...
Yes, I do have a website that
Okay.
people can reach out to me at. It is The Gold Mentalist.
The Gold Mentalist.
.com.
.com.
Yes.
The Gold Mentalist. GOLD.
Yes.
The Gold Mentalist.com.
Yes.
Yeah, check that out. Find Bri Sché. Amazing woman. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.